Hello adventurers and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm just cooling off, calming down, and I'm in the van. It's a little bit loud outside, so I thought today we could just sit inside and chit chat a little bit, catch up, answer some of your questions, and then also share with you what I'm making for dinner. So this should be a fun one. I'll show you what that I've got to work with first, and then we'll talk about it, answer some of your questions, and then start preparing this meal so that we can get a little bit closer to dinner time because my tummy is growling. For today's meal, everything that you can see on this table, except for the spices, came from Walmart. We have spinach artichoke dip, which is absolutely delightful. It has cream cheese, spinach, mayo, artichoke hearts, sour cream, Parmesan, and a blend of mozzarella and Asiago. We also have some baby spinach, some portobello, mushrooms, and then we also have some fully cooked bacon. And this is just some black label bacon that I found. And then my seasonings of the day are my sriracha garlic that I have that I really love. And then also just a little bit of everything bagel with Asiago. I thought that would work well with this. So this is all we need for this meal. It's going to be super simple. It's just going to be very user friendly. So now let's talk about life. Life has been good. Life has been very, very good. I have been staying so busy on this trip, just every day, new adventures, doing something, scouting places, seeing new campsites, visiting all sorts of cool places, doing some geocaching, and every day I'm just like, oh my goodness, it makes me like a kid in the candy store. However, with that hasn't been all roses and sunshine, and on this trip you've seen some weird stuff that's happened too. Between the person who walked through our camp when we were in Creed, to the person who just like kind of blocked me into my camp whenever I was up in the Leadville area, I've had some interesting encounters for sure. I've had lots of feedback from you guys over the past couple of months about all of the things that have been happening, and let me tell you, some of you guys have some good ideas, but there's a few flaws in some of the other ideas, and let me explain. And just don't get mad. Don't get mad. In fact, let me go wash my mushrooms and then we'll talk about that. Guess who's back? Back again. The mushrooms are back and they are clean. They have been dried off. All is good. And you can see these mushrooms actually don't have stems. So this is perfect. So I'm just going to set them on a plate so we can start to put them together. So here's the tea. A lot of you mentioned that I need security lights, an alarm system, a camera system that's attached to the van, and or a dog. And all of those are great in theory, but there are some big not gonna happens. Number one, I'm not getting a dog. I know a lot of people think that I'd be happier if I had a dog. I know a lot of people think that I'd be safer if I had a dog. I know a lot of people out there do not feel comfortable traveling personally without a dog. However, let me show you something. Today was a really warm day. This is after it's cooled down, probably 10 degrees in the van. That would not be safe for a dog. My van is not designed to be in all the time. I did not set it up that way on purpose because I most of the time am not in the van. I am using the van as a vessel to sleep in and to drive places. When I'm sleeping, I have fans that work just great for that. And whenever I am driving, I have air conditioning. However, if I was to have a dog, I would have to have a lot different setup. Number one, I probably couldn't fit in here with the dog comfortably. I think a lot of people get the false impression that my van is much larger than it is. I have 35 square feet of living space. That X's out any kind of big dog whatsoever. And I personally don't want to travel with a small dog. I just don't. I don't really want to travel with an animal. Not to mention, I go to places a lot of times that an animal can't go. For example, a lot of national parks, believe it or not, you cannot take a dog. And if you do take a dog, you have to leave them in your vehicle, which again, would not be fair to the dog. I don't have any kind of ventilation. I don't plan on installing any kind of ventilation. And so that is just a pointless cost to sit there and say I need a dog. It's just not going to happen, guys. I do appreciate whenever I have friends who have dogs because I can play with them, but I personally will not be traveling with a dog at any point. This is something that I have a hard no on. In fact, I don't see myself ever having a dog again. No offense to dogs. Love dogs so much. But I wouldn't want to travel with a cat, a bunny, a dog, an emu, anything. Like, I think that would just be so unfair to the animal based on my personal lifestyle. Now, if someone else, again, with me has a dog, I try to make accommodations for that. But in the cases like whenever Riley has brought Tyson places and then Tyson couldn't go somewhere, if we didn't know ahead of time, it's just really like okay, now what do we do? And that's always hard. Not to mention, as dogs get older, they do prefer to be creature comforts and have things that they enjoy. So being in a set place is actually much safer and more responsible for them personally. And so I would just feel bad. So no, I'm not getting a dog. Now, as for security cameras, I will probably be investing in more security now because of the things that have happened. The trail cam has been clutch though. I will definitely recommend the XTU trail cam until I am blue in the face. And normally I would say, oh, there's a link below, but I do not want to at this point or at any point when talking about the incident that happened in Creed, make money off of safety, because I just think you should absolutely buy the thing so that you can use the thing, because I don't need to capitalize on your security. I just don't. I think that that's icky behavior. So if you go to my original XTU video and you want to purchase it just for funsies, cool. But otherwise, if we're talking about the actual safety portion, no, I'm not going to be like, buy this, because I think that's gross. I think that if I want you to be safe, I should just want you to be safe, and I shouldn't get my little 3 cents off of that, because that's about how much you make off of them. But still, at the same time, I believe in it, I swear by it, and yes. As for safety lights or security lights, I do have some. I'll be putting them back in the van once I get back to Texas. One of them was messed up, so I need to get that worked on. I just haven't had to use them really, because it hasn't been a thing that I've had issues with. So now I will be putting them back in, because now we've had an issue. So it kind of is what it is. As for an alarm system or anything like that, the only way to have a proper alarm system is to have one that if you touch the van, it goes off. But the problem with that is if I'm in here moving around, that might also activate said alarm system. And so I'm not really wanting to do that. A lot of people said, oh, you should have just honked your horn. And if I would have known somebody was there, I would have. But otherwise I didn't. So kind of is what it is on that one. But there's a full circle moment on that a little bit after the fact, recapping. Let's put these things together though. We can talk about the next weird thing. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and open up my spinach artichoke dip, and I'm just going to slather the inside of each one of these. Ooh, yummy, yummy, gonna be in our tummies. A lot of people only use spinach artichoke dip as dip, but it actually makes a really good piece of cooking kit because you can add it to a lot of things. I usually add this to pasta. It is so good in pasta, but I thought it would cook really well into these as well. So we're gonna try it. So we'll get a nice big old scoop right there, and then we'll just put it in the middle, and then I'll do the same on the other one. Now we'll spread it all across, and we may end up adding a little bit more after we get our other stuff on here. The goal is just to kind of coat it. And again, there's flies everywhere. I've been just inundated with flies these last 2 weeks, and it's just driving me bonkers. So the other thing that's really been driving me bonkers, which we've talked about a little bit on this channel before, is the craziness on the internet. It's still going on. It's just the update. There's not much more to it that I would like to say. Oh, I just really wish that some people understood the do unto others as you would have them do unto you, but they don't, and so it is what it is. A lot of people have been asking me, are you okay? I'm super fine, guys. I think that the bad thing is that some people just kind of don't have a lot of respect for themselves, and they take it out on others, and I think that's unfortunate. So the best that we can do is send positive vibes their way and hope for the best. As for the follow-up, well, the channel hasn't been taken down just yet, but I have had some very interesting correspondence with YouTube, and yeah, not really going to be able to talk about that too much more unless they take action, but just know. Oh yeah, I was right. I was totally right. This pre-cooked bacon doesn't have to be cooked again, but I kind of like to have it cook into whatever it is that I'm making. So I just kind of tear it apart and then place it on whatever it is that I'm using it for. And then we're going to throw this in the air fryer in just a few minutes. So this should be pretty tasty, but at the same time, again, we're just kind of playing it by ear on how this goes. About 3 little pieces like that should work. This one's a little bit larger in surface, so this one might take a little bit more. In fact, here's one of those little bags. So I'll just go ahead and take the bacon and put it directly in here. It'll make it a little bit easier for me in the long run. And while we're doing this, let's talk about something positive. One of you guys had a really, really nice question that you asked in regards to some things that have been going on with the channel and some of the activities. You've been noticing that I've been doing a lot more hiking, and you were curious as to whenever I was talking about hiking previous and kind of what I would do and why you can't find all of those hikes on my channel. Well, when I first started out, I didn't cover a lot of the things that I did. Notice in the very early days of camping, you don't see a lot of the tents that I camped in either. And I used to do tent reviews right and left. but I didn't know that the value would be there for you guys. And so I was just kind of like hit or miss knowing what I was doing. And so I don't have a ton of those hikes actually on my channel. In fact, there's very few of them, which is part of the reason why now it's so important for me to share the hikes the way that I am, so that you can see them in all of their beauty. I realize that not everybody can go to every trail, and because of that, it makes me kind of sad, because there's some trails that are rated easy, which might be a Colorado easy, but might not be a Montana easy or a Texas easy. And so whenever I go on these things, I know that not everybody's going to be able to do all of them. And that's why I show you the terrain changes and the crazy stuff that we have to go through. But also for those people who know for a fact they won't be able to go there because they can't travel or they can't hike, I want you guys to be able to see the beautiful pieces of this world around us, which is why I have pivoted toward showing more of those things. Not to mention, a lot of people want access to information, and if you go onto All Trails and you're talking to a Coloradan who is easy as a 14er, and you're a Texan with poor lungs, and they're saying, oh yeah, this was a walk in the park, and you get there and you're like, only 12 more miles. It's really distressing. So instead what I do is I look things up on All Trails, but I also try to see if there's a reference video where somebody's shown you what it looks like, so I can see if I'm going to be able to survive. If there's not a video, I create a video so that other people can see if they're going to be able to survive, because that's a real thing. And so, yeah, that's kind of why there's not as many of those. However, I loved hiking whenever I first started. It was a way for me to see things that I'd never seen before. I've talked about many times on the channel that whenever I first started out, I really just wanted to get out there and do all the things because my eyes were open for the first time to the world around me. And it really means a lot to me to be able to have an experience even now. So being able to share those experiences in a way that you guys might be able to do them also just brings me joy. So I unfortunately don't have a lot of those. You can see more of the hiking stuff maybe on my Instagram, but even that, I don't have a ton. I didn't talk about certain things because I didn't know what to do, because I was new and I didn't know where my voice needed to go. And even in those old videos, let me just warn you guys, if you watch those, you're going to be like, wow, you're really quiet. Because I listened to myself for the internet. Don't do that, guys. With that, let's throw this away. We're going to put some other things on this, and then we're going to move on to something else that you guys asked, because some of you had questions. Okay, this is the part where I'm going to add a little bit of my seasoning, kind of in this mid layer right here. And then I'm also going to add some of the everything bagel. Ooh, that came out aggressively. This is going to make sure that the actual mushrooms themselves absorb some of that flavor, because we want them to cook really well, but we want them to absorb that. And now it's time for a little bit of baby spinach. We're just going to put some on the top like that. Just a few pieces, just enough to give us some, like, you know, veggies. Okay, in the meantime, yes. And the reason this was open was because I have already washed my spinach. As soon as I get it, I always try to wash it so I can put it away so that I don't have wet spinach going onto food products specifically, because that gets weird. So the next interesting thing that someone asked, because they had lots of questions, they asked me, hey, you've been traveling a lot with your friends lately. Do you have any tips for traveling with a group? Because when I've tried, it has been hard. Yeah. It can be hard, definitely. When you get anything more than 2 vehicles, a lot of state parks are like, no, you can't stay there unless you pay for an extra site. So the typical standard for state parks is usually 2 vehicles. If you have a larger group, you might want to look at more like recreation areas and things like that. Sometimes they'll let you have more at a paid site. Otherwise, boondocking is your best option, but also can be your most challenging. We have gone to places that are like pull-offs or trailheads that are great for like 1 or 2, but once you get into the 3 or 4 category, it starts to get wild. I kind of look back on different incidents that we've had throughout time, and I look back all the way to like when Riley and I came to the P&W. Some of the places that we'd pull into were great for just us, but the minute we added a 3rd person, it got a little bit more difficult, because not only was it a larger van, but also you had to find a place for said van. So if we pulled off at a pull-off and it was like slot parking, we were okay as long as we got there early. However, if we got there late, we weren't probably guaranteed a spot for sure. You can usually slide a tiny vehicle in, but a bigger vehicle is much harder. We ended up staying a lot of places that were very remote pull-offs, or we would go to campgrounds that were like free campgrounds, and that worked out well. Now, whenever I just traveled with Collie and Teo and Riley, kind of the same thing. some of the forests are not as expansive as they once were. So some of the larger spots, those big rigs come in there and they take them. In fact, some of the spots, I'm not too proud to say this, I watched as people would go away, and I was thinking, ooh, are they going to town or are they going? If they're going, let's go get their spot. But if they were going to town, we'd be like, womp womp, they left stuff. So I think it's all about like finding what works for you and also being flexible and not expecting roses and sunshine for a huge group every time. Now, if you go to Arizona during the winter time, there's more expansive space. You're going to find a better opportunity to camp like with your group. But at the same time, now they're starting to enforce how many people can be in that group without them starting to look at you like, hey, are you an organized group? In which case, most of the ways that I am finding that they are doing that is to watch Facebook. A lot of the police officers are saying, hey, these people are telling on themselves by posting all this on Facebook. So maybe just be careful. I don't know. Otherwise, if you are planning on traveling with a larger caravan group, plan ahead a little bit more if you can. That is the easiest way to ensure that you for sure will have a space, because you don't want to be playing it on the fly with a large group if your anticipation is that you have more than 3 or 4. If you have more than 3 or 4, you need to be kind of thinking ahead as to where you're going to go, just in case the backup doesn't work, because nobody wants to get out there with their friends and just have one of those days where you just drive around and can't find anything. Okay, so last but not least, we're going to put a little tiny bit more of this on there just so it melts into all of this and like melds those flavors. And so this is going to be super tasty. Again, we're just going to put a little glob on top and see how the spinach kind of moves around. That's another reason we need to lock it in so it doesn't get moved around in the air fryer and thrown all over the place. It doesn't have to be perfect. We can keep it globbed if we want to, or we can move it around, but as long as it's touching all the spinach, that's the main thing, is just make it touch all the spinach so the spinach doesn't go flying through the air fryer like it is on a mission. Just for good measure, I'll just, yeah, there. That's perfect. That's going to give it so much flavor right there. In order to get the air fryer ready, we have to put our air fryer liner in the air fryer as always, because it makes cleanup a lot easier. One of these. Now, one of the other questions that I received recently is, why do I keep my personal life so personal? And again, I know that this came from a good place because the woman who asked, but it does have some value to it. A lot of people enjoy telling more about their lives personally from the perspective of like what's going on in their dating life, or like if they are on a journey of some kind when it comes to their own self-help and development. I don't want to talk about any of that. And the reason why is very simple. I want the channel to be about what it is we're doing. I have always made it a point to have that as the main focus, because my goal was never to be, hey, I am Bunny and I am important. My goal was always, hey, I'm Bunny and I'm taking you to all these places because I want you guys to go there. It's always been more so about trying to encourage you guys to get out there. And so I think it's really important to have that. And sometimes in order to establish that, you have to kind of like take a step back and say, okay, I'm already kind of showing my friend dynamic because my friends travel with me. At the same time, there's entire parts of my friendship that I keep personal to myself just because it is important to me. Same thing with dating. There's a lot of channels out there that share their dating journey. They share the ups and downs, the breakups, the crying, all the things. That's just not me. Now, let me give you a little personal story so you can have a little piece of personal without like diving into the personal. A long time ago, whenever I lived in Dallas, I had a person that I dated, and it was very well known that I dated them. And at the same time, lots of people tried to like weigh in on said relationship with unsolicited advice for no reason, thus causing problems in said relationship. So after that, I was just like, you know what? I'm cool with just having that for myself going forward. I think that a lot of times people, especially people who aren't happy with their own lives, will have input into your life. And that's just silly. Also, people who think that they know better will give you that unsolicited, like, oh, you should do this. Anytime somebody says, I should do something, I'm just going to earmuffs it out, because that's not something that I'm interested in, because I have to go through it to get to it just like everybody else. I have to figure out my dynamic. And in doing so, I have to have that interpersonal connection with that person behind the scenes as well as in front. So even if you see me out, even if you see me hanging out with somebody, that doesn't mean anything whatsoever. And I make it a point to really just not put too much information out there in regards to my actual relationships. Again, if I have somebody that I'm interested in, cool, but at the same time, you're probably not going to hear too much about them. I just think everybody deserves privacy in their space, and the people who put it online, that is their choice, they can do that. But also, I've seen comments as a result of that. Some girl will meet some guy and actually really get along with them, and then the internet will prefer her to be a single woman. So they'll just crucify this poor guy without even knowing him. Or some guy will get into a relationship with some girl and they'll be read to filth 10 ways from Sunday because they're either comparing it to the last girl, or they're trying to tell them, oh, we like this girl for you instead, or oh, we don't like this one, or oh, we like this one better than. It's just toxic across the board. Anytime somebody has a relationship that is public, it just becomes toxic. So no, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to interject weird into my life? I'd rather just have my life be my life. Additionally, there are certain pieces of my privacy beyond relationships. I know most people just want to know about the spicy details of that, but there are other things that people want to know that you don't need to know, guys. You just don't. For example, if my parents are traveling, you're not going to know that they are traveling in real time, just like you will not know if I am traveling in real time when you see a video. I'm not telling people those kinds of pieces of information because that is a safety risk. So if something starts to border on invading my privacy or my safety, we're just not talking about those things. And those things are pretty personal. Also, if for some reason at any point in time I have any kind of like weird health thing, you're not probably going to know about that at any point unless it's just something very minimal, like when I broke my tooth. Like, who cares? That's just such a minimal thing. But if something were to happen, the unsolicited advice is the biggest thing. I have been told 50,000 times already, without any conditions other than some sciatica, that's it, that I have this or that, or I should do this or I should do that. And these are all things from, might I add, non-professional people. So these aren't doctors, these aren't MDs, these aren't people who have any qualifications to diagnose, but they will diagnose you on the internet. So no, why would I do that? So sorry guys, it's not gonna be that kind of level of personal no matter what, just because as much as I would like to kiki and have little girl time with you guys, because it would be super fun, I also have to deal with those kinds of people. So it's just not as good for me. It becomes weird, and then it takes the fun away, and then it takes the fun away from all of us. With that, let's put this bad boy in so we can have a little bit more fun in my tummy sooner rather than later. And in the meantime, okay, I've got it at like 350. And then we'll go up here to 10 minutes. One more thing on the other side of the personal thing, which is just kind of funny. I've had a lot of people who have either sent in, oh my goodness, I would love for you to meet my grandson. I've had several of those, and I just politely am like, hey, thank you. But, you know, again, I know it comes from a super good place because you guys are awesome and you want to see me happy, and I appreciate you guys so much. But also, it just becomes a little weird because it's a not organic connection. I prefer organic connections. Anytime I meet people, I like to kind of feel out who they are as a person, and I like to meet people kind of in the wild. Does that make sense? So most of the people that in the past I have shared a connection with, I have met them in an organic way. I've never had like great luck with people setting me up. So I do appreciate you guys more than you know. I do get a good chuckle out of that too, because I'm honored that you think that I would be good for your people, but also it's just kind of funny to me because I do keep it so separate. So I appreciate you. I do see you out there, and I've already responded to every one of you, but thank you so much. But now let's move on to something a little less personal, if that's okay. Let's talk about the elephant in the room every time you guys see a video, the sunglasses. I get so many comments about the sunglasses, and I completely understand why. And sometimes I feel as though I wish I could like make everyone understand my eyeballs, because it would make so much more sense instantly if you did. For the time being, I'm in a good place so we don't have to wear the sunglasses, but anytime there is any kind of like really uncomfortable light, and it could be a bright light or it could be a muted light, like on a cloudy day, I have to wear sunglasses. If I do not, I literally cannot see. And it's not that I'm blind or I have terrible vision. It's just that something about the brightness of the light has always affected my eyes in a strange way. And so this is something that's been a long time. Now, in doing so, that led me to, again, all different sizes, styles, and shapes. And I just started having fun with it. On certain days when the sun is just crazy, I need to cover as much of this zone as I can. This also kind of works as like a sun protection thing, because this part of my face doesn't get as much sun on those days. But on all days, I pretty much have to wear sunglasses, even to the point that it's kind of obnoxious. And I totally get it. A lot of people have told me on the internet, it's hard to take you seriously when I can't look in your eyes. If you were looking in my eyes, I must say, in those moments, you would probably be seeing me look like this, which is far less serious than me doing this and just being expressive. Like this, I look like a cartoon character. I get it. It's kind of weird, but it is what it is. But like this, you're just gonna be like, what's wrong with you? And I know this because this is what has happened in life when I wasn't wearing the sunglasses. So that's why I wear the sunglasses. Now, do I have a little bit of fun with them? Absolutely. All the sizes, all the shapes, all the colors, all the craziness. But at the same time, I figured I might as well take lemons and turn them into lemonade and just express myself in a unique way versus looking like, yeah, because I literally couldn't see. The glare was just so bad. And I wear contacts. A lot of people have said, well, why don't you get a transitional glass? I don't like those. They don't cover enough usually unless I get ridiculous ones, in which case then I'm just gonna look like I'm from the 70s. No offense to anyone who lived through the 70s and had the ginormous glasses. Props to you, because I like the glasses, but I also like to have the variety that the variations of sunglasses offer. Not to mention, again, the lens colors do matter, and transitions, you get one lens color and that's it. So you can't have different colors for different kinds of light that are passing through. So it doesn't work out as well for me. So for now, this is how you get to see me. And so far, you know, I've only lost a few followers over that. And at the same time, like, cool. I mean, it is what it is. I can't please everybody, and I'm certainly not going to just at people. I'm just not. That's just super weird. Which leads me into my next thing. The other thing about me that people seem to question a lot is the hands. I don't get it as much as I did, but I've gotten it more recently again. Why do I move my hands around so much? That's just who I am. If it's not for you, I completely understand. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to diminish myself. Like I said earlier, I did that at the beginning of my channel because I thought that I was just too much. At the same time, I'm okay with being too much. There is a song that I just recently heard by Dove Cameron. It says, if I'm too much, then go find less. And I don't mean that in like a mean way, but in all reality, I don't need to modify who I am as a person to appease the internet. So this is just me. Hi guys, I've always been like this. I'm an only kiddo, and whenever I was a kiddo, I would entertain myself in a room because I was at home a lot alone, and so I became a very expressive person, and I like myself. So if you guys don't, that's okay. I'm not offended, but also you don't have to announce it to the room of comments of, oh, again, unsolicited advice of you should talk less with your hands is always just going to be like a, you know, you haven't been here very long, so it is what it is, guys. Hands, they're not going anywhere. So if they do offend you, I completely understand if you click away. In fact, I would probably prefer you click away than torture yourself. I even suggested to one lady who insisted that I should do the most so that she could do the least. She told me I should sit on my hands. Those were her words. You should just sit on your hands. And I was just like, no ma'am. Maybe you should listen to me as a podcast, because I'm not going to sit on my hands. And I know that sounds weird, but at the same time, again, I tell you guys about all the weird stuff that happens here on the channel. And yeah, I've been told I should sit on my hands. I should tie my hands behind my back so I don't move them. That was a weird one, because like, A, how do I tie my own hands behind my back? And B, that's kind of hostagey. That's kind of weird. Just kind of weird. And C, why does it matter so much? And with that, I think this thing's almost done, so we're going to get our first glance at the mushroom. Ooh, that's gonna be good. Good. Time for the second one to go in. I do need to fix this liner just a little bit because it went a little wonky. And in for the same amount of time, 10 minutes. That worked super well. Ooh, look at that though. And this is the nice thing about the liners. You can just peel it right out, set it on the plate, and you don't have a lot of mess that gets on your plate too. Next question is a personal question that I also get asked a lot. Do I ever plan on settling down and having kids? No, I do not. I know that there's a lot of people who that is their journey. It has not been my journey my entire life. It's not been something that I've been interested in. So no, I have no intention of doing that. And as for the wash, rinse, repeat marriage situation, I already did that. And I am here as a solo woman for a purpose. So I think that if we, again, stop worrying so much about what's happening behind the closed doors, you'll understand that like it's not for me. If it was, you would see that. So no, I don't have any intention of doing that. And it's not, again, because I don't want to date or anything like that. It's just that I personally value my time so much. Time is the one resource and asset that you cannot get back. And so if you spend your time investing in another person who doesn't equally invest, then ultimately it turns into this really weird thing where then you just lost that time. Now, before we talk about that more though, I'm going to cover this thing so no flies get on it. So I'm just going to use my bowl that I normally use and just... Now, investment in time is a big deal to me. In fact, I think time is one of your most valuable resources because you aren't promised a certain amount of time. I've spoken on the channel many times about the people that I know who have passed away far too early and how that impacted me personally to realize time is not something that you normally think about in the way that we normally should be thinking about it. We should be valuing each and every breath that we take, each and every moment that we have, and we should be observing those days that we have not as, oh, this is hard, but rather, okay, this is an opportunity to do something and hit the ground running. Now, you don't have to move crazy fast like I do in order to do that, but just have fulfillment to your days that ensures that you are using that day to the fullest. Because if tomorrow your number is up, you don't get another chance. So if you didn't do something, that's it. And mind you, after your time is up, I know there's a lot of different philosophies as to what could happen to you and if you're going to float around or if you're going to go somewhere or you're not going to go somewhere. And all of that is null and void in this conversation. The point is, you get one chance to do these things. Every day you wake up with that one chance when you wake up. So do the things. A lot of people also that I've met along the way who are older have told me that if they would have done the things that they wanted to do when they were younger, that they would feel more fulfilled. And now they feel like they can't do the things. And so I encourage you guys to do the things while you can do the things. Not just for the, hey, your number might be up tomorrow aspect, but also if something happens and your body starts to break down, which happens to all of us, might I add, you want to make sure that you can do those things so you don't have regrets. I live every day without regrets. Even the bad stuff that's happened in my life, I do not regret it because it led me to the place that I am. And I think that regret is also kind of a theft of time because it makes you dwell. And if you dwell, you're not moving forward. So we have to move forward. So I kind of think in that regard. Now, going back full circle to where we started with this though, if someone's going to be that person to me, that doesn't necessarily mean that I need to invest that time in a relationship to the capacity of what the standard of the world thinks. If I have a good, positive, quality relationship with a person, that is enough for me. I don't want to have to legally put myself in a position to have to deal with a person. Not everybody who has been married has had a pleasant divorce, and I am definitely a product of that. Again, this is about the most personal that we're going to get. I don't want to have to deal with that ever again. And I know you don't go into a new thing thinking about the old thing, but also you do have to be wise and smart about situations. If you were married for, say 10 years like I was, and it took you 5 years after that to be fully away from that person, and even into more recent years when you are doing this, several years down the line, it is still impacting you, then you would probably consider that as well. So my thoughts are, instead of us like trying to find the perfect narrative for a person that we don't know all of their context, we instead celebrate the joys that they have that they do share with us. And so that's kind of my thoughts on that. Again, I don't want to talk about super personal things because we could go super dark on that too. And nobody wants to go there, trust me, it's not fun. So instead we keep it positive because my life is very positive now as a result of all the weird in the past. So no, probably not going to get married or have a kid or do anything like that. Not in my journey, and I'm okay with that, and you guys should be okay with that too. Be confident in just being yourself and that being enough. And that isn't me being like girl power or anything like that, so don't construe it as such. But we have to take care of putting into our own tank before we worry about putting into the tank of others. And sometimes that means that we just need to be us for a little bit, you know? So be you guys. And I know some people who watch my channel are happily married, and that makes me happy also, because, you know, My parents are super happily married, and it makes me so happy to see that there is traditional marriage that is still good. However, that's just not my personal journey. Okay, next up, this is not personal at all. It is so the opposite of personal, which makes me so much more comfortable. And that is a silly question where somebody asked me if I could go anywhere, and just stay there for a month, where would it be? And I was like really thinking about that, because I've gone to a lot of places and like stayed in those states, but if it had to be like one place, just one place, and I couldn't go but beyond the boundary region of just that one tiny place, I honestly don't know. I think that I am such a mover that I like to have the ability to just go and go and go. And I do find that there's value to sitting in one place. Like when I go back to my base camp, I do enjoy sitting still. However, I think that if I was to pick a new place especially, I would want to just go explore. So maybe if I had to pick a place and that place had a broader range, that would be easier. But like for a single town, I don't know a single town that I would want to just sit in for a month. Even if I really love that town, I wouldn't want to just sit there for a month and not be able to go and explore outside of the town bounds. Does that make sense? So I don't know. Now, maybe if I were to go abroad to a place like, for example, Rome, oh my gosh, for a month, I could totally get down with Rome because there's so much history within Rome itself. Now, if you were to give me a state, I could easily get along in pretty much any state for a month. I love being able to move about, and that would give me more options, but a single town, that's pretty hard. So I don't know. Again, maybe a town that I've never been to that has tons of history, that would be the best bet probably. But with that, we have our other mushroom. Now I'm just gonna leave this one in the container and just kind of set it back in so again the flies don't get it. Here's my deliciousness. We're about to take a bite, but before we do, I'm going to answer one last question today. My last question is one that is going to make everybody kind of upset and sad, but unfortunately it kind of goes back to the safety thing. I have been asked probably 100 times within the past 2 months, will I be doing any kind of meetup in Arizona? And the answer to that is no. And the reason why is a couple-fold. I have done a meetup before and it was really, really fun, and everybody who came, I thoroughly had a blast. We just kind of did a pop-up where everybody drove up and we met up and then we kind of parted ways, which ultimately is the best way to do a meetup if you are trying to get around the more recent weird rules that are going on, because A, you're not having it tracked on Facebook, which now that we know, which is fine, but also B, you're not camping, which is having the environmental impact, which is part of the reason why like the BLM and things like that are not being pleased with this. If you're having a formal gathering, they're requiring you to have a permit. They're asking you to have certain kinds of amenities like trash, toilets, stuff like that in some cases. Okay, this is the weirdest fork of food ever, but it looks so good. So I'm gonna try this and we'll talk a little more. This is what I've been wanting. It has all of the different flavors that I wanted. A little bit of freshness with the spinach. The bacon really, really melts into the actual mushroom. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is just what the doctor ordered. Diving back into the concept of how we did the meetup before, it worked out really well because, again, we didn't have that environmental impact, so nobody really cared that we were there. And we had a really good group of ladies that came out and a couple gentlemen as well. But it was really neat because I got to meet so many people and it was just kind of impromptu and it worked out really well. But with that said, now I have a lot of weird things going on. Last year, the reason why I didn't do it again was because the guy sent me a death threat the year before and I was still a little bit nervous because he said he's part of the quartzite community. And if you can even begin to fathom the fear of saying, hey, I am in quartzite and I will do really terrible things to you. You just don't want to even be in quartzite. It's just not a fun thing. Having any kind of threat is really, really scary. And so if you are there, especially as a woman who sometimes is by herself, it's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have to deal with this. This is unnecessary. And so I decided that instead of doing the meetup last year, whenever I did return to that area, I was just going to say, okay, we just can't do this. We can't have nice things because unfortunately some people just can't be adults. Theme of the day. People aren't adults sometimes. And it's okay. Except for in those cases, it's definitely not okay. So my solution is instead of doing meetups, if I happen to be out and about, if somebody sees me and we chat, that is my favorite thing. It's really, really nice. I also feel more comfortable that way because we're just kind of in passing, and I don't camp with people that I haven't previously met or that I haven't met in an organic way, only because that's where you put your head at the end of the night. And as much as we share on the internet and as much as we don't share on the internet, if somebody knows about your YouTube channel, they know how you sleep in your van. That's weird. If somebody has watched your YouTube channel, they know how you use your toilet and where. That's also kind of weird. And it's not necessarily that it's weird because all the people know. It's more so because when the people who are threatening you know, and that's a problem. I like to create educational content so you guys can learn about van life and things like that, but also about all the places. But whenever it comes down to somebody who literally tells you what's in your van, how he's going to use it, and how he's going to harm you, yeah, it's not fun, guys. And I think that that kind of puts it into a different perspective. A lot of times when people come to meetups, they want to look at your van and stuff like that, and that also puts a bunch of people that you may or may not know previously from comments in your space, and it's my home. So it's one of those things that when you think about it, if you have a home, you don't just let everybody come into your home. But in van life, that's very common. But if somebody has threatened you and told you where the things were in your van, I know a lot of people, in regards to the people that we were talking about at the beginning of the video that came through our camp, a lot of people were concerned about air tags and having my frame checked and all of that. Now picture that inside your van. It just kind of makes you unsettled. So unfortunately, because of the bad people, we will not be having a meetup, but also because of the permits and stuff. Like, those permits are expensive. They're like $5,000 in some cases. And so I was just like, okay, I understand why it is so nice to have community and to be able to get together and hang out. And I do pop up in places and I do meet lots of people. But at the same time, I'm nobody, guys. I promise you I am nobody. I'm just a regular person here chatting with you guys, showing you how to make a mushroom today, and just talking about weird stuff that goes on in life. Now, you guys can always ask me questions. We can always, again, if you see me out in the wild, chat with me. I've met so many amazing people who are parts of the channel. I've met people in Missouri, in Colorado, in Arizona, outside of the areas that most people are in. I was in Kentucky and met someone. I have met people all throughout the South, just randomly, because people, oh, are you Bunny? Yes, I am. Let's chat. And I love that. I thoroughly enjoy getting to know people, and I even talk to new people that I meet out and about because I want suggestions from new people. And I think the best way for us to be able to travel is to learn from one another. Unfortunately, no, guys, I won't be doing a meetup, and I'm really sorry about that because I do appreciate you guys again. And it's not because I don't want to hang out or anything like that. It's because I literally am very nervous. And again, I know it is the fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percent, but as a person who is traveling solo so frequently, I just have to be very cautious. And I hope that through me talking about caution, that you guys also realize to exercise caution. If you do want to start YouTube, do not post in real time. Do not tell your real-time location to the internet ever. Ever. Don't do it. It's not worth it. I've told you guys some of my stories about what's happened, and it is definitely not worth it. It is definitely not worth your peace of mind and your time and your sanity. Show people the beautiful view, even on Instagram in real time. People will reverse image search that. That has happened to one of our friends, and it was really scary. So have some delay on everything that you do, just for your own protection. I don't just say it because, like, hey, I don't want to be a nice person. I want to be a nice person by helping you guys not end up in a bad type of way, because unfortunately the world is showing us more and more every day that there's some not nice people out there. And for the most part, I think genuinely humans are nice. But again, those people, the fraction of the fringe, they're wild. On that note, though, guys, I am going to eat one of my mushrooms and put the other one away for tomorrow, and I am so excited because this is going to be a perfect dinner. Oh yeah, this is going to be so yummy. I hope you've enjoyed coming along for the weird questions that I get, and then also for my little recipe. I'm going to be sharing some more recipes with you guys of just the things that I enjoy making. Simple things that you can make too. If you do not have an air fryer, you can still make this, but you do need a pan that has a top on it, and then you can just place it in the pan and put it on a low heat with a little bit of moisture in there, just a tad, just a little bitty tad of moisture, and put the lid on top, and it will bake it all down nicely, kind of like an oven. Or if you have a camping oven, you can just throw this in the camping oven, 350, and just kind of watch for the cheese to get nice and caramelized on the top. That's all you need. So yeah, pretty good meal. Super fun conversation. I have enjoyed it. And remember, guys, we're not here for a long time, but we are here for a good time. Bye.